and welcome back to How You Living Radio. And today we have our special guest, Alicia Jackson, a holistic practitioner. Do you like to say therapist or practitioner?
Either one is fine. It depends on who's listening. It depends on what people are most comfortable with, but it's all one and the same. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I have known, I don't even know how long I've known Alicia. We've been friends for a while.
Yeah.
So explain to people who you are, what you do.
Okay. Well,
so many hats.
So many hats, right? So I'm Alicia Jackson. I am a holistic practitioner, holistic therapist. Do some astrology. I'm an end-of-life doula. I am a Reiki therapist, a yoga instructor now, and I feel like there's a couple of other things in there, but the whole goal is not to be this person that knows how to do a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. It's more or less just being a person that certain things come to you naturally.
Yes.
And so
it's a gift.
It's a gift. It's truly a gift. And then I'm able to present that to the world as a gift and an offering as well, because it comes to me naturally. So it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
Yes.
It just feels like, oh, this is what I was going to do anyway. And each of those modalities that I just mentioned, and a holistic therapist being that the main part of my practice is that I counsel.
Okay.
That's the foundation.
Mm-hmm. So have you been in this space always?
No, I was in corporate America thinking I was doing the best thing that I was supposed to be doing. And something interesting kept happening. I kept getting laid off.
Okay.
Right?
That's a message.
And that's a whole message that I was just like,
you're wasting your talent.
Right. And so you get laid off and then you scramble. You're like, oh my God, I have to find another job. And so you find another job and you do really well there. And you're like, okay, I'm hitting all the right buttons. Then you get laid off again. And so it was just like this repetitious cycle. And I have an aunt who is an intuitive like myself, and she's psychic as well. And she told me, probably in my teenage years up into my 20s, if you don't do what you've been called to do, you're going to get sick.
Yeah, that's true. I believe that.
And as a young person, I was like, here she go again. Because when you grow up in a house of intuitives, it's always when they say something like the spirit needs, I have a message for you.
So she knew you were an intuitive.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But when you grow up in that environment, it's just kind of like anything else. Like, oh, I don't want to hear what it is this time. So you kind of run from it. But all your friends are like, hey, can I talk to your aunt?
Right.
And so she told me, she said, you're going to get sick if you don't honor your gifts. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. Fast forward about 15 years later. Went and got a checkup from my doctor, Dr. Chan, who is an amazing doctor. She's Chinese. She's an MD, but she also practices Chinese medicine in some ways if you're comfortable. Mm-hmm. And this was the first time that I had gone to her and gotten a physical where she said, if you don't do something, you're going to die. Wow. And that's exactly what she said to me. Whoa. And I'm thinking to myself, but I feel fine. Mm-hmm. So my numbers were off. I was on the verge of a major heart attack. Didn't know it because I'm Texas fine. I got this extra weight on me. I'm from California, so in California that weight would have been like, oh, you're fat. But in Texas it's like, oh, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. You're perfect. Right.
High cholesterol, asthma, allergies, just all these things, right?
That we just take as another day.
Mm-hmm. So I leave out of her office and I just literally like, okay, if there's something else that I'm supposed to be doing, let me see what that is.
Yes.
And I just kind of got aligned with the right books and people and instructors and facilitators. And I just started doing my own research and it worked. And that, for me, changing my diet first led me into my whole spirituality and awakening.
Wow.
Because taking away foods that were making me sick raised my frequency.
Yes, that makes sense.
And so when my frequency,
she's a vegan.
You are vegan.
She's hardcore
For
vegan.
how long?
What is hardcore vegan?
Hardcore vegan is, was this skillet cooked with some meat?
Okay, that's good.
Yes, okay.
You won't step foot in a restaurant that serves meat.
Not that,
not
because
that
in
hardcore,
order
huh?
to fellowship and socialize with my friends, it's not that hardcore.
Uh-huh.
But I am mindful that I may eat before I get there.
Yes.
And then just kind of drink something so that I
you
can be a part
did
of.
you almost immediately start feeling a whole new
90 days.
Wow.
90 days of just making the commitment and switching things up. My frequency shot up. And I started feeling vibrations and sensations in my body that I didn't even know were possible.
Right.
I'm gonna try.
And then just connecting with people like Kiva through yoga classes. And it's so funny. I think about our connection. I was taking yoga at 24-hour fitness, which is,
interesting.
because at that time, I think that was one of the only places that it was offered outside of if you went to like a temple or somewhere like that, right? So this is what, 2005 or 6, something like that.
6 or 7, yeah.
And so then some years after that, that's when I kind of went into my awakening of changing things. And so I've been vegan now for 12 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because that's when we became friends.
How long have you been vegan?
Oh, no, not as long as her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like forever.
I stopped eating beef and pork about 35 years or so ago. But then it was a little baby step. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's when we became friends, because she would come to my yoga class, and for some reason we started talking. And
Kiva walked up to me and goes after class one day, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and she goes, "You do something. I don't know what it is."
Consider yourself lucky, because she don't do that to anybody.
She was like, "You do something, and I don't know what it is, but you do something." And she sat down on my mat, and we started talking.
Very intuitive.
It was so intuitive. It was so intuitive.
So we just became buds.
Before we came on the air, you talked about being end of life doula. Yeah. And people may or may not know what a doula is, period.
Right.
And so can you kind of explain?
The doula is the person that assists the mother and the father, or the family, while the child is transitioning from the spirit realm into the womb, from the womb into the world.
Okay.
And they give like the most amazing support, from everything from making sure that the environment is what it needs to be. If there's family there, making sure that people understand the boundaries. Certain music might be being played. There might be aromatherapy. Like, the doula is responsible for making sure that everything that she has talked to about the mother and father is happening in that moment. Because with so much happening in a birth or a death, people can just get kind of stuck on what they want to see happen.
Right.
And it's important for someone to be there to facilitate and say, this is what the parents want.
So it's very different from a midwife.
Yeah, well, the midwife is there.
See, I never knew there was a difference.
The midwife is there for, she's catching the baby normally.
She's
and
really,
so you're setting the atmosphere.
She's functional.
And so
you're a more spiritual.
Right,
and
you're
so,
there
and
as a
the
guide.
same thing with the end of life, because I've never heard of
end
of
life
life doula.
But I love that idea.
Welcome to my life, right?
Wow.
So end of life doula is, so like, let's say someone's in hospice, right? And they decide that they want to bring in an end of life doula. So I would come in and say, what are some things that you want to see happen before people walk into this room? Do you want them to put up their electronics?
Right.
Do you want them to not be jangling their keys?
Nice.
Do you want aromatherapy? Do you want your bed facing the window? Do you want to see trees? Do you want to see the water? Yeah, like, depending on what that person wants. Like, what's your favorite music? Do you want to hear vinyl records? Do you want to have music streams? Do you want people rubbing your feet? Are you okay with people touching you when they come in?
Yeah.
Because people are just...
That is
and
wonderful.
Maybe that's not what they want.
Instead of taking for granted that it's okay to touch somebody. They might not want to be touched.
They might not want to be touched for whatever the reasons are.
That's
and
very
how does that fit with, I mean, I kind of know, but with your spirit, because you're like, you're there to see the beginning of the spirit coming in, and when someone maybe take their last breath. So how has that changed your life, your vibration, on how you view life?
It's matured me a lot.
Yeah.
In 2019, I believe I lost 9 people, just like one after the other. And then I've lost people before then too.
Right.
One thing, and this is astrologically speaking, I've so there's a wheel in your astrology chart, and each there's a house, right? And so the 8th house for me, which is the house of death and regeneration, there's a lot of planets in that house. So the relationship that I have with death is not one that is fearful or anything like that. So it really comes naturally to me for me to experience death and want to usher people safely to the other side. So they say that, I'll put it to you like this. So you know how they say, once an adult, twice a child?
Yes. Wow, yeah.
Okay, so when you're coming into that space where you're coming back into your infancy stage and you're crossing back over, we're told that there are these twin babies that show up. They're these toddlers, and they're the ones that will take you home. Wow. Right? Because you're a child again. So you're meeting your friends.
Awesome.
And so I'm kind of like the babysitter, if you will, that's kind of there in that space, holding space for them and holding space for the person that's transitioning over.
I see, now I want to become a doula.
You should.
Experiences I had that makes me think about that. One thing I'm sure you hear, when people are about to transition, they start seeing their loved ones.
Yes.
So my dad we lost 4 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so he was very, it's a long story, but basically we went from practicing traditional Chinese medicine to doing what MD Anderson told us to do. I'm just to name names. But so when we did take him off of what the protocol we had him on, he immediately got sick.
Right.
And full of, sepsis and everything.
Right.
So he was basically just a few days away. But when he was very distressed. But what I did was I had created a music list for him, all his favorite jazz. And,
so you doing doula work already?
See, I didn't know that. But here's the funny thing. So I would put as soon as I put his headset on, his music, he got lucid. Not only so he got very lucid. He would talk. He would be in a better mood. He gave us all a kiss. And when you took it off, he was in another place. But then, as he got closer, he started having like a conversation with somebody else.
Yeah.
He was having a clear conversation, and I'm convinced it was his mom, his grandmother, people he was very close with.
He's going home.
Yeah, it was
and
clear.
So you'll see everybody who's waiting for you, who would be at your house.
I am 100% on board
absolutely.
with that.
It's a true spiritual experience.
And when you hear that, it almost makes you at least even more accepting to say, that there is truly something beyond this particular moment.
100%.
Yes. And it's just a beautiful thing to be. And so one of my goals and purposes is with people of color in particular, because of the disparities in healthcare and things like that. So hospice is normally free. Black people in particular, because of our relationships with doctors, we don't trust doctors.
We like to be home. We like to do hospice
Don't
at
take
home.
me to no hospital, right?
And I don't blame them.
But not even, we won't even hire the hospice to come into the home. We don't know that it's free. We don't understand that because of how we've been treated in the disparities, right? So I want to make sure that people know that.
That makes sense.
We can die gracefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And Robin didn't want to talk vows, and she's gone down that road.
Right. I still like spirituality more.
So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to find out more about raising your vibration and how does it feel when you don't, and it's all in your gut. How does that affect you emotionally, mentally? Because she will get into gut health.
We're going to do it.
So join
Dr.
us.
Kiva's going to have her
we're going to be that. So we're going to take a little break and come back and we talk a little bit more with holistic practitioner Alicia Jackson.
Be right back.
Are you living just to get by? Are you